Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar on the depiction of older people in advertising. My name's Lade and I'm the Training and Events Lead at the ASA. I'm joined by my two colleagues today who are going to introduce themselves before I give a summary of the session.
Thanks, Lade. I'm Jo Poots. I'm Head of Complaints and Investigations at the ASA, and I have been part of the project team that has been working on the depiction of older people in advertising.
Hi, I'm Cam Atwell. I'm the research lead at the ASA, and I've been leading on the research element of the project, of the wider project.
Thanks both. Today we're going to be giving you insights into the research that we've done on this particular topic. Jo's going to be leading us through background and objectives, and Cam's going to just give us an overview of the research. Just to let you know, the session is being recorded and you'll get a link to the recording following this webinar. And we'll also be sharing a link to the report. And just to note, if you do have any questions during the session, please do pop them in the Q&A box and then we'll get to them at the end during the Q&A session. All right, well, I'm going to pass on to our first speaker of the day, who's going to be Jo.
Thanks, Lade. So as Lade said, I'm going to give you a bit of information about why the ASA undertook this research into the depiction of older people, what we set out to explore, and why we think it's really important for us all to reflect on the findings of that research. So why did we initiate the project? At the ASA, we're always keen to gain a better understanding of whether we need to do more to protect consumers. In particular, we're committed to promoting the protection of vulnerable groups and to better understand those groups. In recent times, we noticed an increase in discussions about the portrayal of older people in the media, including in advertising. Age-related charities, such as the Centre for Better Ageing and Age UK, had raised concerns about how older people are portrayed in the media. And the issue was also being explored by the Women and Equalities Committee, who had launched an inquiry considering the rights of older people, and they published their findings in 2025. And the conversations on this topic aren't really very surprising, given that over the last 40 years, the number of people aged 50 and over has increased by over 6.8 million. That's a 47% increase. And the number of 65 and overs has increased by over 3.5 million. That's a 52% increase. So in response to this intelligence, the ASA launched a project looking into the depiction of older people in advertising. And last month, we published the findings of our independent research. So in that project, we set out to explore attitudes towards the depiction of older people in ads, to understand how, if at all, such ads impact public attitudes and actions, and to explore which depictions of older people in ads have the potential to cause offence and/or harm. My colleague Cam is going to provide some more detail on what that research showed, but overall it reveals a disconnect between how older people experience their lives and how they're shown in media, especially in ads. For example, the public told us that all too often ads reduce older people to tired caricatures: the silver-haired technophobe, the grumpy old man, the lonely, vulnerable pensioner. Some of those portrayals are potentially offensive, others just irritating, but collectively they send a message that growing older isn't something to be celebrated. And at the same time, there's growing frustration with how older audiences are targeted. Many people spoke of feeling bombarded by ads for will writing, stair lifts and cremation services, regardless of their actual lifestyle. Instead of recognising that many older people who are active, vibrant and diverse, an overabundance of such ads presumes decline, reducing later life to a marketing category defined solely by dependency and endings. Of course, we recognise that ads are often constrained by time and space, and that generalisations can be a valuable tool for getting messages across quickly. And there's no question that products and services aimed at older people have every right to be advertised. But our research shows that it's the tone and delivery, not necessarily the subject matter, that sometimes misses the mark, leaving the very audiences advertisers are trying to reach feeling misunderstood or misrepresented. What we heard from older people was clear. They want to be portrayed as they really are. Too often ads swing to extremes, showing either the frail pensioner or the skydiving 80-year-old. Most people's lives fall somewhere in between. They want ads to better reflect that, showing the full spectrum of later life. People who are active, working, caring for others, embracing new opportunities, and living with confidence and purpose. The reality is that over 55 isn't a single life stage. It covers a broad span of ages, experiences, and lifestyles, which is why our research was designed to capture perspectives from across the demographic spectrum. Some older people might be riding wills or booking retirement cruises, yes, but many are still building careers, caring for family, staying active, and embracing new passions. And there's a prize to be won for advertisers who get this right. The International Longevity Centre estimates that by 2040, 63% of all consumer spending in the UK will be by those age 50 and over. Far from winding down, this age group is spending on travel, tech, home improvements, and more. This is a high-value growing audience, and brands that reflect their lives with authenticity stand to gain their attention, trust, and loyalty. This is not a call for censorship, diversity quotas, or new rules. As a regulator, we're committed to protecting people from irresponsible ads, but we also love creativity and storytelling and want responsible advertising to flourish. What we're offering today is an insight, a reflection of what the public is seeing and hearing and how it's landing. Because ultimately, how we portray ageing matters. It shapes how we treat one another, how we see ourselves, and what we expect from life as we age. And now I'm going to hand you over to Cam, who's going to give you a deeper insight into the research findings.
Thanks, Jo. So just touching on the methodology first, the research study combined qualitative and quantitative research with both phases conducted across the 4 nations of the UK. As Jo mentioned, and as we clearly acknowledge in the report, the 55 plus age group represents a broad spectrum of experiences, abilities, and attitudes. So it was important for the research to understand and highlight any relevant differences within this group, particularly within the sub-age groups of 55 to 64s, 65s to 74s, and those aged 75 or over. Our initial desk research also highlighted the need for us to consider intersectionality with age, particularly with gender and potentially age and ethnicity. So again, it was important for us to design the research in a way that allowed us to explore those areas. The qualitative phase included 9 focus groups, with 6 of those conducted amongst those aged 55 or over. And these were split by age, gender, and socioeconomic groups, and each included participants from ethnic minority groups. This was followed by a quantitative phase. We ran a survey to build a strong evidence base and to making sure that it was representative of the UK population. We ran a survey of over 4,000 respondents, which allowed us to look for significant differences across demographic groups and conduct robust subgroup level analysis. The results of this are set out in some detail in the report. The research provided some really interesting and important contextual findings. We know that older people report feeling relatively positive about their age. The survey found that those aged 55 or over are more likely to agree that age is just a number and more likely to say they feel comfortable in their own skin compared to those in younger age groups. Those aged 55 plus felt growing old today look very different to previous generations. They felt older people are living and staying active for longer, and as a result are contributing to society and their local communities for longer. There is a sense that current portrayals of older people in ads, such as those showing older people as frail, inactive, and isolated, don't reflect the more positive realities of modern-day aging. And many older participants felt those portrayals are in some ways closer to depictions of their own grandparents. While there was acknowledgement that ads can play a role in impacting perceptions of older people, they were not seen as being as influential as other drivers, such as personal interactions or depictions in the news or on television. Ads would seem to reflect and reinforce attitudes rather than determine them, but it was felt repeated exposure to certain types of depictions could perpetuate perceptions over time. The targeting of ads for end-of-life products such as funeral or cremation services and the omission of older people from ads more generally was spontaneously raised as issues by older focus group participants. 40% of those aged 16 to 54 think that people in older age groups are underrepresented or not represented at all in ads. This rises to 52% of those aged 55 or over. The omission of older people from ads for certain sectors, such as technology, or even everyday products, such as washing up liquid, was referenced. 55% of those aged 55 or over said they'd like to see more people of their age in ads for a wide range of products. This rose to 62% of women aged 55 or over and 64% of adults aged 55 or over from ethnic minority groups. As well as businesses missing out on an audience with substantial spending power, omission from such ads was felt to reinforce stereotypes of older people as not interested or capable of using certain products. While these topics were not the primary focus of the research, it was felt that targeting and omission may work together to compound the sense of narrowed depictions of older people in ads, with some older respondents saying these ads implied a societal view of older people as past their time and sitting around planning the end of their lives, both of which did not align with their lived reality. And while commercial reasons behind targeting were acknowledged, there was concern that the volume and tone of some end-of-life ads could be harmful to those who lived alone or with long-term health conditions, serving as a constant reminder of what they might be trying to avoid thinking about. However, we found that tone can play an important role in how ads, including for end-of-life products, could be viewed differently. Some felt the use of humour can help to make light of the aging process. Being able to laugh about getting older could feel refreshing and reflective of discussions many older people have with their peers. For example, many appreciated the use of humour in this ad.
Whose idea was this? The sun chose it, apparently. This is what happens when you don't plan it whilst you're still alive.
With the Choice Funeral Plan, all the decisions are yours to make, including the music.
Won't happen to us, Maureen. No, it will not, Brenda.
Call 0800 860 6110 or go online at choiceplan.co.uk.
So while the ad showed two women who could be seen to be stereotypical older ladies, the tone made light of their age and the topic of funerals. This felt refreshing, particularly when compared to other end-of-life ads, which were often perceived to feel gloomy or unexciting. 45% of those aged 65 or over agreed that older people tend to be negatively stereotyped in ads, compared with 28% of 16 to 54s. And this rises further to 53% of women aged 65 or over. Interestingly, the survey found that the UK population as a whole was more likely to agree that older people tend to be negatively stereotyped in ads compared to the portrayal of men, women, or ethnic minorities. Older people were also significantly more likely to disagree that older people are portrayed accurately in ads. It was felt that ads tended to present older people in extremes, for example, either as frail and inactive or taking part in extreme activities, or either in severe hardship or extremely wealthy. While participants acknowledged that such depictions could be representative of some older people, they were not considered accurate reflections of the lives of most older people, and felt these depictions suggested meaningful old age was dependent on wealth or being extremely active. We explored attitudes to depictions of older people in ads, both qualitatively and quantitatively. In the focus groups, we tested over 30 ads for different products, using different creative styles, tackling different themes, and across media type. This enabled respondents to take a view on the elements of ads that felt positive, elements that were irritating, or whether they had the potential to cause offence or harm. And in the survey, we asked respondents to categorise 15 different themes. It's important to note that ads can evoke subjective responses, and what is offensive to some may simply be irritating to others. However, we found certain themes that emerged consistently across the studies, quantitative and qualitative findings. The survey results highlighted variations in views on whether a particular depiction had the potential to cause harm, shown in red, cause offence, shown in light blue, be seen as irritating, or have no effect. At least a quarter of respondents felt each of the depictions had the potential to cause offence, rising to almost half of respondents in a number of cases, such as using humour at the expense of older people, or showing them as poor or impoverished. There was a wider range of views when considering the potential for a particular depiction to cause harm. The number of participants who considered that a depiction could cause harm ranged from 8% for showing older people as grumpy to 32% for depictions of older people as having no purpose in life. For certain types of portrayals, such as only mixing with older people, doing unrealistic things, or being portrayed as rich or wealthy, the impacts were felt to be low, with the majority feeling that these were just irritating or had no effect. In the qualitative phase, we explored ads that were felt to be positive, or depictions in ads that were felt to be positive. Through the use of stimulus material, we found the depictions that were seen to include positive depictions were ads that focused on the person and not their age, and show older people being part of wider intergenerational groups or taking part in a wide range of activities. The following ad was seen to show an authentic and layered individual, and was one of the most liked ads from the research.
Right, love.
It's me.
Oh, hey, son. I thought it was your mum.
How was your first day?
Fine. Good.
Come on, Dad.
Everyone was just, I don't know, younger.
Yeah, but that means you've got experience in that.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I think you're real clever, you know? I wish I was like you. Anyway, I got you something in the glove box. Before you ask, they didn't have fruit or not.
There's a glass and a half in everyone.
Depictions of older people that focus on the positives and freedoms that were felt to come with aging were viewed positively, and ads that actively subverted stereotypes without going too far so that it felt gimmicky were also liked. An example of this was a JD Williams ad with the tag "Admit it, this age thing suits you," although the same campaign also featured an ad with the tagline "Feeling more girlfriend than grandma," which wasn't viewed as positively, as it suggested the aging process was something to fight against. Ads that had the potential to cause offence tended to use humour at the expense of older people, especially if the storyline was addressing subjects such as relationships or intimacy. While some found such depictions refreshing and a positive attempt to address such topics in a less serious space, others felt it was inappropriate and offensive. Ads that were dismissive of older people could cause offence. This was seen to be a particular issue when coming from a younger person, or where an older person was depicted as being less capable because of their age. As well as feeling demeaning and mocking, these depictions often felt at odds with the idea that knowledge and experience grew with age. The study found that the types of depictions that were most likely to cause harm included those where older people were shown as being isolated or lonely. While there was appreciation for the importance and seriousness of the messages that some ads were trying to convey, these depictions could tap into underlying fears about isolation in later life and lead to feelings of hopelessness, especially for those aged 75 or over. The qualitative research highlighted ads that showed older people as less knowledgeable falling into this group as well, including this ad.
So, Mrs. Ramos, what does your son do?
He says he sells clouds. He works in a cloud company and sells clouds to other companies that want clouds.
So does he make these clouds?
No, someone else makes them. He sells them.
Have you ever seen these clouds?
No, he says they're invisible. Maybe I shouldn't have let him play so many video games.
Parents don't get B2B. LinkedIn does. And helping marketers reach over 70 million decision makers makes LinkedIn the place to be to be.
And ads showing aging as something to be fought were also seen to have the potential to cause harm. This was raised as a particular issue by women who felt beauty ads reinforced unrealistic beauty standards, which could put pressure on older women to look a certain way and lead to low self-esteem. Interestingly, some older women who were perhaps more confident and accepting of the aging process were less concerned about the potential to cause harm to themselves, but saw a potential for such ads to cause harm to women more generally. We asked participants to consider any changes they'd like to see, and they felt that authenticity and inclusivity were the two most important features to consider when depicting older people in ads. And participants expressed a desire for advertisers to get closer to the reality of older people's lives and reflect these in the ads they produced. Participants felt advertisers should avoid relying on extreme or one-dimensional depictions of older people, placing older people in situations where they are mocked for reasons related to age, or portraying older people as mixing solely with their own generations. Instead, advertisers should aim to include depictions that show real people, not just celebrities or airbrushed imagery. They should focus on the individual, putting their age aside, rather than focusing on that being their only characteristic. Ads should show intergenerational depictions, for example, showing the role they play in the care of their grandchildren. And they should portray a spectrum of experiences rather than extremes. Participants were keen for the ad industry to retain creative freedom and felt that providing these practical suggestions would be most effective in helping the industry to better understand and reflect on older people in ads. That's a summary of our findings. I'll now hand back over to Lade.
Thanks so much, Cam. We've had some questions come through in the Q&A box. If anyone has any questions, please do pop them in. Oh, someone's just asked if it's possible to get a copy of the slides and webinar. Yeah, that will be sent to you following the session. If anyone has any questions, please do pop them in and we'll answer any questions that you have regarding the research. We'll just wait for some to come through if there's any. None have come through so far. Gosh, maybe it was just so thorough. Everybody has any questions? Aha, right, okay, we've got questions that have come through. Would it be, what would the approach, what would be the approach for services that are targeting loneliness and isolation? For example, linked to our Age UK Wakefield district befriending.
Sorry, is the question what should be the approach for charity ads?
Yes, that are trying to address loneliness and isolation for older people.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the research does show that continually seeing that sort of image can make people feel worse. At the same time, I think our position at the ASA has always been with a charity, the public is a little bit more accepting of taking an approach that reflects the negative aspect of a situation. So I guess, you know, if there is a way that it can be reflected in a more upbeat way, that's for you to decide with your creatives. But I think that there is a bit more of an acceptance of charity ads having to make their ads such that they're delivering sometimes quite a hard-hitting message.
Brilliant, thank you. Joe, just to double check, did we ever rule against that LinkedIn ad, or was that just an ad that featured in the research? Someone's just asked that question. Did the ASA taken the LinkedIn?
Yeah, this is the value of the research, really. I think it's illustrated in the answer to this question. We did receive complaints about that ad, and we considered them, but we didn't feel that they breached our rules at that point in time. It was several years ago. So I think that should we consider a similar ad in the future, we may very well come to a different decision, given the results of the research and the fact that showing older people as technophobes was one of the top reasons why people felt ads were either offensive or harmful.
Thank you. Someone's asked, unrealistic beauty standards span all generations. Is there a wider exercise to address this across the industry?
Possibly. I mean, it's a very good question. The ASA does look at the area of body image, and we take that very seriously. And I guess that falls into that category. But yes, I mean, it is something that we're mindful of, and it's something that I think parts of the industry have done well to address. But yeah, it probably does remain an area that we could all reflect on.
Thank you. Touching back on the beauty industry, someone else has kind of chimed in to say there's certain ads in the beauty industry that say fights the signs of aging, which could potentially be portrayed as negative because it's essentially portraying aging as negative. How is that navigated at the moment at the ASA?
We haven't ever said that those claims are unacceptable. I can't say that we haven't received complaints about it, but yeah, we haven't produced any rulings or guidance that says that we think that's harmful or misleading. Again, it's clearly an area that older people don't like, but whether it is something that would fall foul of the ASA rules, I'm not sure.
Okay, thank you. Someone asked, have there been any changes in how older people are portrayed in modern ads compared to older ones? Cam, I don't know if that was ever flagged in the research.
Yeah, no, I mean, we took the call to sort of focus the creative that we used in the research to sort of the last 2 or 3 years, because it would be unfair to go back any further and sort of look at that. I think, there were some comments about, it's great to see, sort of certain types of ads where, for example, the JD Williams ad or the Dusk ad where, portrayals are different. Not so much about sort of how things have changed. I think spontaneously, particularly amongst younger people, that they could see that things had changed in other areas in terms of sort of stereotyping by gender or across ethnic minorities. So they'd sort of spontaneously talked about other changes they'd seen, not necessarily in this area.
Thank you. Someone's asked, has there been any engagement with these advertising companies to change what they're doing? So, for example, funeral plan provider companies, is there any action the ASA is considering promoting to change this?
I mean, I guess what we're doing here today is a step in that direction. We're promoting this research. We're providing it to the industry so that they can reflect on what what it says, what it means for their businesses, and we're hoping that some of the areas that have been highlighted, marketing and advertising companies will consider that when they're commissioning their future campaigns.
Okay, brilliant. I'm just conscious we've got 1 minute, so I'm going to try and see if we can just answer one more question before we let people go. Any questions that couldn't be answered, we'll send a follow-up email to you as long as you haven't put yourself as anonymous. Someone said they're interested whether these findings are also transferable to the inclusive, effective targeting of young people as well, and whether we can share our views on this. I don't know if that's actually explored as part of the research.
Yeah, not directly. Of course, we were tackling a certain topic and certain depictions that particular age group, come across or are portrayed in ads. So it's difficult to say how that, and I think the question wording was around targeting. So I'm not quite sure that would sort of, there's anything in this research that could link to targeting of younger people. We are looking at specific depictions of older people, and also the fact that older people feel that they're just not represented in ads enough anyway. So they're quite different audiences to suggest that the findings could go across the two.
No problem, thank you. I'm just conscious of time. Like I said, if there's any questions in the Q&A box, we will send a response to you via email. But I just wanted to take this time to thank Joe and Cam for delivering the webinar this afternoon, and to thank you all for attending. We do have a link to the report that will be coming in an email to you, or you can scan the QR code on screen. But for now, wishing you a lovely afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you at another webinar. Thank you, everyone.